Italy, Spain, and Greece have now joined the United States in closing their embassies in Kyiv, Ukraine, over fears of a significant Russian attack. The French and the British embassies do remain open, but they have urged their nationals to exercise particular caution today. The news comes hours after the Biden administration is reported to have approved the use of landmines by the Ukrainian army in a bid to slow the Russian advance. It is one of several steps that President Biden has taken recently to up military support for Ukraine before Donald Trump returns to the White House next year. Well, let's speak to Gulliver Cragg, our correspondent, about all of this. He's live for us in the heart of Kyiv now. And Gulliver, first of all, on the embassy's closure, this is unusual, isn't it? How significant do you think it is?
Well, the Americans did say it was due to an abundance of caution and stressed that they weren't having any indication that there would be a nuclear attack on Kyiv, but they did say that they had intelligence suggesting that there may be a major attack today. Those other embassies following suit has, of course, led to a lot of speculation and a bit of nervousness in the capital today, especially perhaps because the day started with a bang, as it were, when a drone was shot down near the center of Kyiv, or maybe it was on the other side of the river, but it was certainly pretty loud. This happens all the time, but it normally happens at night. It happened when more people were awake, and amid the general, context, that led people to feel a bit more nervous about it. There is also a fake news being spread about, according to Ukrainian military intelligence, with messages being put out on various Telegram channels claiming to be from them, warning of a massive missile and bomb attack coming to the Ukrainian capital today. The military intelligence then put out a statement saying this is not us, and they suspect, of course, it's the Russians with some kind of psychological operation, perhaps trying to take advantage of the messages already sent out by those Western embassies. One siren went off today so far during the day in Kyiv. It turned out shortly afterwards to have been a false alarm. They said there was a ballistic missile threat, but no ballistic missile flew in. I happened to be in a supermarket at the time when the siren rang out. I think I saw a few more people than usual looking nervously at their phones to see what was flying in, but most people just carried on with their shopping, and the cashiers did not rush for the shelters. They stayed open.
And Gulliver, look, let's talk a bit about what the Americans are doing at the moment, because it was just a few days ago that you and I were talking about the Biden administration green-lighting the use of American-made weapons to be fired deep into Russian territory. We're now hearing Washington has okayed the Ukrainian army to use landmines as well, American landmines against Russia. What's your sense as to the kind of impact that actually could have on the battlefield?
My impression, though I'm no military expert, is that it will have quite a significant impact on the battlefield, because what's happening on the battlefield is that the Russians in Donbass are sending infantry to take over Ukrainian army positions, trenches, and the Ukrainians, although they are inflicting significant casualties on the Russians, are continually being forced to retreat because they are severely inferior in terms of numbers and ammunition. If they can deploy these landmines, which can be deployed remotely, they can be fired onto the territory and dropped there, then I think that will help them a lot in stopping these Russian advances. The problem, of course, is that they're illegal. Ukraine is a signatory to the Ottawa Convention, which bans anti-personnel mines. The United States is not. There's an exception, though, I was told by a Ukrainian military expert this morning, in that if the mines are detonated not automatically but remotely, as in the Ukrainian soldier sitting in a house watching on the screen the drone footage showing the Russians are preparing an attack, then presses a button to detonate the mines at the moment when they cross, because they are watching all of this from their drone footage from the sky all the time, then that would not be illegal. What's illegal if they're set to automatic mode and they explode if you step on them? It might well be that the Ukrainians will actually put them on automatic mode, but who's going to check? I mean, I think that they feel that this is a desperate situation and that there would be widespread understanding from certainly Ukrainian public opinion, if not global public opinion, if they break their engagements to not use these things, because they really need to save the lives of their soldiers. I think that's the highest priority in the minds of most Ukrainians at the moment.
And look, I want to talk to you about Donald Trump's incoming return to power in the United States, because there has been much speculation that Biden is making these moves now ahead of Trump returning to the White House. Before we do, though, let's take a listen to what Zelensky has had to say recently on American media about Trump's return.
If they will cut, I think we will lose. Of course, anyway, we will stay, we will fight. We have our production, but it's not enough to prevail. And I think it's not enough to survive. But that will be, if such choice will be American choice, so we will decide what we will have to do.
And look, Gulliver, Zelensky there pretty clear. He says Ukraine will lose the war if the United States cuts military funding. Is that the expectation now in Ukraine, that Trump will indeed slash military aid? And where might that leave efforts then to try and, I don't know, sign a deal with Russia? Is that more likely than it was a couple of months ago?
Well, really, in Ukraine, there is both fear that Trump may cut military aid and hope that he may, in fact, increase it. And one of the reasons that they think he might be persuaded to increase it is if he is persuaded that Ukraine risks not surviving, as Zelensky put it in that interview with Fox News, if US military aid is cut, and that could be something that the Trump administration would actually see as quite undesirable, a humiliation for the United States, Russia in control of Ukraine and its resources. And so Ukrainians, I think, are going all out to try to persuade the Trump administration to not cut military aid and financial aid to Ukraine. And this interview with Fox News on the part of Zelensky is probably a part of that. I think that this interview was aimed at American public opinion. Towards Ukrainian public opinion, you hear him inserting certain nuances into his declarations, which I do think is a kind of preparation for talks and perhaps some kind of settlement that would freeze the conflict, which Ukrainians would regard as very unsatisfactory. They'd be afraid that it would flare up again soon. But you hear Zelensky talking about diplomatic solutions. You also heard him yesterday in his speech to Parliament. I picked up on the fact that he said, we will never give up on our right to our territory. Before that, he was saying, we will never give up on our territory. That may be an indication that Ukraine is going to, at some point, say, look, we're not currently in control of the territory that's occupied by Russia. We consider this illegally occupied. We'll never recognize Russian sovereignty over it. But that if some kind of peace deal with security guarantees is available to us, then that might be the price that they have to pay. But it's step by step, because Ukrainian public opinion is really not prepared for that at the moment, I think.